नमस्कार. युथ GSBच्या GSB उद्योगाचे 17चे एपिसोडाक तमक पूरा स्वागत करता सर. आज आमगेलोटू निवेदिता कामत हान्यासाची बेंगलोर आताकून आयल्याची. निवेदिता कामत तुमकां स्वागत करता सर. निवेदिता कामत हानी एक यूजर एक्सपिरियन्स डिझायनर जावन आसाची. आमगेले बॅचलर्स सायकॉलॉजींत कोर्न घेवन ताजे नंतर मास्टर्स इन कम्युनिकेशन डिझायन कोर्न तांणी UX डिझायनर जावन 8 वर्सां तकून काम करता आसाची. हे फिल्डान ताका मस्त कंपनीसांक तांणी सर्व केलेलो आसा आनी विंगड विंगड कसं म्हणटाची प्रॉडक्ट्स तांणी डिझायन केलेले आसाची. तातूंत फायनान्शियल प्रोडक्ट्स आसाची, बँक्साचे, एविएशन अँड IT सेक्टर बेसिकली. आतां तांणी एक ऑस्ट्रेलियन सॉफ्टवेअर कंपनी आल्टेशियन तांत भितर आसाची. निवेदिता तुमकां युथ ऑफ GSB तर्फेन GSB उद्योगाक स्वागत करता आसा. तुम्ही आमगेलोटू आज येवन टायम स्पेंड करच्याक सांगेल खातीर तुमकां धन्यवाद आनी परत स्वागत करून आयचे आमगेलें इंटरॅक्शन स्टार्ट करूया. फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन या UX डिझायन म्हळ्यार कसलें?
Interesting
तूं
question.
आमचे गेलो कितले तितलो उलयता बिकॉज तुका इंग्लीश मध्ये यूज करूयात. आमकां आतां उलयतना आनी टेक्निकल येतना येता सो
technical Malita, I'll just switch to English.
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard to explain what UX design is in a few lines. So I'm glad
Right.
we have the next hour to explain that. But
Right.
let's start with a simple definition that it's the process of creating the entire experience for the end user, and that applies to any product. So take a digital product like your email that you use every day, or take any physical products as well. What is the experience that the end user who uses that will have, how useful that is, what's the value they derive out of it, how delightful it is, how will they interact with it. So it's all that put together is a very thoughtfully crafted process that's put into picture, and that's what UX designers do. And that process of doing that is called UX design in the shortest possible definition that I can give.
ओके ओके. बट यूजर जावन म्हाका कशी ते दिसता और ते कसले एक्सपिरियन्स दिसता म्हणून एज अ यूजर ऑफ द डिझायन. यू डिझायन समथींग एंड आय ट्राय टू यूज इट. सो ते म्हाका कशी ते दिसता. आय मीन हाऊ डज इट अपियर टू मी? Can you give me some examples and maybe if you can?
Okay, so for example, you have so many supermarkets or shops around your house, but I think everyone always has one shop that they always
Correct.
want to go.
Correct.
Let's say they sell the same products, same prices, kind difference na hai shop, their shop, neighboring shops, they're all the same, but you still have one favorite shop, or you have no reason but you like to go to that shop always.
Correct.
There are many reasons that contribute to this, right? So it could be that parking milta hai, discount milta, you have better lighting, it smells nicer, the people are nicer, you get service there, you have more variety of products. So all these are things, for I'm taking the analogy of a shop,
Right.
where which compels you to pick that shop over another shop, for instance.
Right.
The same thing if you apply in any digital product that you use. You always it's so ingrained that you don't realize that you're picking a product over another, because all of these factors are very carefully planned and designed in a manner that you pick them over the other. Another example that I can give is a digital product is, we have so many payment apps today. We have
Right.
ATM, we have UPI based apps, you have Phone Pay, you have Google Pay, Beam, and all these apps, and different banks themselves have
Correct.
apps like Yono.
Correct.
We all have preferences. When a shop says we accept anything, but you have a preference
Correct.
of one over the other.
Correct.
And that's what is designed by designers, that you at that moment of decision making, they want you to pick that app over another app for whatever reason, because it's
Right.
faster, it's easier, I have more trust in it, I have more faith in the money, or they accept it, or it's easy, or I can see it, or it just looks nicer, I like the colors better, it's bigger so I can see it, I don't have to wear my glasses. So all these are reasons in which a user would not realize, but does that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those
Yeah.
are the underlying reasons why an end user will pick a product over another.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And these are all carefully crafted experiences by the product, and they want you to understand that, they want you to realize it, and then make a decision of using
Okay.
that service or not using that.
Okay. 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 So who can get into this stream of job? Maybe, I mean, this stream, UX designing.
Um, it's, I mean, let's talk about it in terms of like what skill sets are needed,
Correct.
or what's the career growth. When it comes to
Correct.
what career growth
Correct.
do we see from that? Before let's okay before that, I just want to like touch upon quickly about a little bit about the history of UX design or design
Okay.
in
Okay.
general.
Okay. Okay.
uh, just because you'll realize how much it's evolved and what kind of skill sets they had, and now what skill sets have been added to it, and how the whole
Okay.
industry has evolved so much.
Okay. Okay.
So historically, they date back to like almost 4000 BC,
Oh.
where
Okay.
you've heard of Feng Shui,
Why?
which is on the principle that an importance of a space is carefully designed, and that
Correct.
has been optimized for a certain kind of a energy or a behavior, which
Correct.
means to say, if you optimize a space, it's better in some way.
Correct.
And that's where it comes from. But and then we had, in the early 90s and the late 1940s, we had companies like Toyota and all, who valued the human aspect of technology or humanizing it. And then somewhere in 60s we had Walt Disney, who were more on your like creative side, aesthetically inclined. And in the 70s, we had a lot of big companies like Apple, Xerox, and the whole PC era came into it. And then there was a whole, digital products that came into the
Why?
picture.
Why? Why?
In the modern day, the term as we know it today, called the UX design, was termed by someone called Don Norman. He was, by profession, the first user experience designer or UX designer, as his designation, who worked at Apple. And this was in 1995, uh, and he was the one who really coined that term as we know it today, called UX design.
Okay. Okay.
And how what the things that he did there as a UX designer would cover all aspects of a person's experience using Apple system.
Okay.
And then that was one of the first, trailblazer in this UX design world. And even today, how Apple is looked like as someone who is technologically advanced, is also advanced in terms of how their experiences are built, and not just how it's built, but also how it works for user and what value it provides to
Correct.
user.
Correct.
So at that time, when this person was working at Apple, there were things that were never considered before now came into picture, like the graphics, the interface, what's the
Correct.
physical interaction, what's the
Correct.
touch and the feel, and the sound it makes, and
Correct.
the manual that you get, and how those manuals are created with Apple. So all these things were never given so much importance before this. And these were the aspects, or these were the skill sets that you needed at that time, like
Okay.
what it looked like, what it sounded like, what were the manuals looking like, how much of text has gone into that manuals,
Correct.
what do these Apple products feel like when you touch it. So it's all of this experience put together, that coined the term UX design. And since then, this has really expanded, and now we use UX as just like an umbrella term of so many other things within it. um, like you talk about research, or how it looks aesthetically, or you have sound and motion design and graphics design and UI design, visual design, interaction design. So now if you talk about like skills, there are almost hundreds of them.
Oh.
And most companies, or the job postings that you see from companies, are looking for a range between these. Like somewhere, if you're a generalist, you have at least a few of these, or a little bit of all of these. Or if you are a
Okay.
specialist, like one would say, I specialized in UX research, or I specialized in visual design, or I specialize in two, three of these different aspects within UX design. So there's a lot of skills that are part of UX design.
Okay.
and it keeps growing. Like today, we also have augmented reality and virtual reality,
Why? Why?
where there's no distinction, and these boundaries are now a little fuzzy of what is
Okay.
digital, what is physical, because
Exactly.
you have mappings, projection mappings. It's all coming together with virtual reality and stuff. And now and that's a skill that UX designers need to get on board with and understand and design that immersive experience, whether it's digital, physical, it's a mapping tool based, or it's a augmented reality experience that we're building. So it's all of that put together.
Okay.
So, and
Okay.
it'll continue to be like that, where these skills are broadened. But at the core of it, it is very simple. It's a problem solving way of approaching things. What we're always doing is we're solving problems.
Correct.
Problems like this has happened, how can we fix that? People are not able to communicate with each other in this remote world. What can we do? What product can we build? How can we make lives easier? So
Correct.
it's a problem solving at the end of the day,
Correct.
and it needs these basic human skills. Apart from that, tools and everything that I spoke about, is how well you empathize with users, how
Correct.
well you understand people.
Correct.
And
Correct.
it's very difficult, it's easier said than done, when you to read between lines. How can I make something that you absolutely love using? How
Correct.
can I create something that will compel you to use it every day?
Correct.
um,
Correct. Correct.
right? And that's the level of empathy that, or that's the skill that people need. And I don't know if that's something that you can learn. You can learn ways in communicating that. You can learn ways to like framework and process, but it's also a very innate quality for someone to empathize and be a good listener, and analyze a lot of data that you have, like you have quantitative data, you have qualitative data, to say X number of people have used it this way and Y number of people have used it this way. So you want to analyze that and derive that information, that okay, based on this data point, I'm going to make or design it this way. So that's another aspect of it. We have other things like running a lot of A/B test sort of things to validate your solution. So you have
Okay.
created three options to
Okay.
for for this problem. So you want to test and see how many people will use this or this, and then finally release that which wins over the other options. Then you have skills which are more visual and aesthetic in nature, about how colors are going together, what is the contrast, how accessible it is for people who are colorblind, or what strain it causes your eyes if you're staring at a screen for too long,
Correct.
or whether it should be a dark theme or light theme. So there are all reasons for this, and those are the principles based on which you make decisions on colors and sizes and fonts and how the layout should be and all of that. So um, I think at the core of it, these are some human skills that one needs, apart from, of course, the ever growing world of tools and languages and other things that you'll always have to keep up with
Well,
whatever comes up in the
well.
world.
Basically, creativity plays a long, large, to a large extent, I think. No, creativity.
Yes. So
Okay.
to me, creativity is just defined as, if you solve problems, you are creative. I know people say, I'm not creative, I don't understand. No, I think if you are in a field of work, or if generally in your life you're solving problems, any problem comes up and you're thinking, okay, what should I do now? Or what can I do? How can I do this differently? Can I figure out some other way to do it? You are creative. So I
Correct.
think just thinking a little bit outside the box, or
Correct.
finding another way to solve this problem.
Correct.
So that's
Correct.
it is on those lines, and almost everybody is creative in some way. So it's not that difficult.
Yeah. Opportunities in your field, kitla sachi. I mean, if you can give me numbers, say Sangeeta, or what is the kind of field you have to play around as a UX designer? Opportunities are there.
Um, Opportunity wise, okay, let's look at the vast world of design itself,
Correct.
where you and then I'll come down to UX design.
Sure.
So the world of design has, of of course, the first thing that comes to anybody's mind is fashion design or
Ouais,
interior design,
ouais, ouais,
uh, which has been there for many years, and that's the first thing everybody thinks when you say design. But there
ouais.
are lots of other things, and I do have. I mean, we'll come to that at the end of the session also. Where I have some slides on,
Okay.
you know, the
Different kinds
types
of
of
this. Okay.
different kinds of, or the, the associated worlds of UX design.
Okay.
But just to mention a few, there is um, of course, apart from fashion and interior design, there's communication design, which is what I did, and where UX design is a part of that. Then you have industrial design, which has things which are more physical in nature, like product design. Like you have people who design medical equipments, people who design products like fridge, AC, all of that, and what the shape should be or what goes into it, what defines one model versus the other. So you have a lot of industrial designers who work in these places, companies that manufacture these. And then you have transportation design, which is also part of industrial design.
Okay.
Transportation design people would work at places like Mercedes, BMW, and they actually get to design vehicles, bikes or cars or anything. Uh, so you're starting from sketching to each feature or component that goes into that vehicle.
Correct.
And then you have motion design and animation design. Of course, those are people who work at creating title credits for any movies or animations and more associated with moving pictures
Correct.
industry. So that's the broad. I think I've covered most of it.
Correct.
There may be other offshoots of interior design, like your merchandise designs, who uh, work on how the front of a store should look like,
Okay.
how museums and galleries are designed.
Okay.
So how it is in, and then there are space design, which is how any space is designed, is also an offshoot of interior design. It's not
Correct.
necessarily interior, but just a space. For example, you have a museum. Where should what should go where should
Correct.
be the walking path, where will you put up information, how will people interact with it, from what distance would they read that information about something that's on display. So all that is part of the space design we're talking about.
Okay.
So this is broadly everything within design. Now, within UX design specifically, um, there are so many other opportunities in terms of how you want to use these skills. For example, if you study communication design, you could also be working with brands. You could also be working in the marketing teams,
Okay.
where or you could also be working in ad agencies where you
Yeah.
are
Correct.
creating,
Correct.
like artifacts and collaterals of posters, of merchandises, of whether it's digital or printed physical material, and that's also using a lot of these same principles of who your audience is, how you want to reach out to them, what's the story you want to tell, why would they want to pick your brand over some other brand.
Correct. Correct.
And then of course you have an output at the end of it, which is the poster, or which is the website, or any other touch points that the brand may have. So
Okay.
that's one aspect of using communication design in a marketing ad agency sort of a way. And those are just the same skills that you're using. Now, a lot of people also want to get into the IT sector, which is the most, of course, lucrative, the biggest, and of course, the most money making industry sector compared to all the others. And when I say IT industry, that I say all companies from Google, Microsoft, and IBM, and LinkedIn, uh, and even my company where I work, Atlassian, and yeah, I mean, name it, and almost everybody has a lot of designers who work on all of these products.
Okay.
It's just that it's not as popular, but every product, every experience that you see, from your email to your Google Pay, are all designed by UX designers
Correct.
and then coded by engineers who would develop it, and finally it comes together and comes on our phone.
Correct.
So yeah, that's of course the biggest and the most lucrative industry in terms of applying UX design skills, because I mean there's no dearth of these opportunities. There's plenty of them. Even if you take Indian startups or anything, you have Flipkart and all of these companies. uh, there's Uber. So all of these companies which will have a lot of designers who work on every little detail of it. So
Correct.
that's the
Yeah.
that's all the opportunities that we have
Correct. Correct.
within
Correct.
UX.
So even whenever you think of having an app or a website, you should look at from the UX design angle. Then you kind of develop on it, right? That's the understanding what I got.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you look at it, but also look at why am I using this over something else. Uh, that's when you realize like it's not something, not always so tangible. It's also uh, you will think if you are a person who would think है कसला use करका है use कर यार but why, and then you're like uh, too small or
Right.
too dark or
Yeah.
slow as
Correct.
must.
Right.
So,
Correct. Correct.
so these are small things, which you
Yeah.
don't realize. But if you just question, then you will understand. Okay, that's why this is a better
Correct.
product or a better service than this one.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
if one just starts thinking that way at an early age, then you will
Correct.
understand how each of these
Correct.
experiences is
Correct.
built.
Correct. Like for example, now the WhatsApp and other apps which came on later, and even though there was a lot of hue and cry that is going to change the terms, and but still the
Yeah,
people
yeah,
continued to, yeah, because the comfort or
yeah.
whatever you said, it is not tangible. Intangibly, I want that app. Yeah, I prefer that app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's a very interesting point you brought about. I hadn't thought of it. So I know a lot of people did this whole Telegram, Signal,
Why? Why?
WhatsApp
Why?
debate that happened.
Why?
It's just that, see, uh, WhatsApp was upfront about it, and you
Why?
always see, that gives you details of when it was last backed up, where it was stored, and you have a whole folder that says, WhatsApp.
Correct.
You don't know if Telegram is doing it or not, but just the
Correct.
fact that you don't see it there on the
Correct.
app
Correct.
is why you have that notion that
Yeah.
okay, it's deleted, it's not there, it doesn't store my data, but you don't
Right.
know that for sure.
Correct. Correct.
So deciding what we show you, like for example, Telegram has not done major feature upgrades, like they don't have a great backup or anything else. uh, it's just because we don't see it that it's not there or it doesn't tell
Correct.
you, but it doesn't
Correct.
mean that it doesn't have our details, or
Correct.
because we
Correct.
have that photo sharing thing where you can turn it off after, or kill time or something, where
Something
you
like
can
that. Yeah. Correct.
define a time limit and says after 1 minute it will disappear, so you feel like it's gone.
Why?
You
Correct.
don't know then it's actually gone or not.
Correct.
But
Correct.
that's how it trains people to think in a certain way, and it wants to make you feel in a certain way, which is why you decide, I'm now going to switch to Signal, or I'm now going to switch to
Why?
Telegram
Why?
or
Correct.
that.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Uh,
Correct. Yeah, and to get into your stream of UX design, you said that there a lot of skills are required. But what is the education stream somebody has to go in, and where are these things available in India, basically?
um, it would have been a different scenario when I started out, and until a few years ago. And then for
Why?
me also, it was a gradual step of discovering UX. It's not that I
Correct.
knew about UX and I went into it. But today there are so many opportunities. Maybe not at a school level, and maybe parents don't know that they would tell their kids that go look out for design or go look out for UX design. But today, a lot of IITs in the country offer design courses.
Mm-hmm.
uh, they have similar level of difficulty. They have an entrance, and it is also at a bachelor's degree. It's a 4-year degree
Mm-hmm.
course,
Mm-hmm.
and at a master's level, it's a 2.5-year degree.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are a lot of just a professional course for 1 year. You have a few months. You have online courses and Coursera
True.
courses now. So it's all available there, and none of them are wrong on anything. There are differences in pros and cons of each of these methods,
Correct.
but
Correct.
the advantage of spending that many years in a college or in an institution would be that you're exposed to a lot more how you can use this,
Why?
than just what these small courses would do is just make sure that you have these skills and you understand, and they just prepare you to land a job.
Mm-hmm.
What
Correct.
the long term, the 3 years or the 4 year courses would do is you really immersed in that world of
Correct.
design, where you yourself realize how you can apply these skills.
Correct.
And that's when you see a lot of people, have startup ideas and become,
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs on their own. Like, say,
Mm-hmm.
I know enough now that I can start my own company, or I have an
Mm-hmm.
idea, I want to build a product,
Mm-hmm.
and take it with me, and
Mm-hmm.
get more people on board, and that's how I want to do it. So you're really immersed in that world of design, and you yourself discover new ways of applying those skills when you're in that world for that long.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think they're all around us now, from like small courses to Coursera online courses, to courses that, like, even abroad in all, your Oxford and Carnegie Mellon, all of these universities offer courses. They go by different names. You would have heard
Mm-hmm.
of, I don't know, design thinking, or
Why?
UI design, UX
Correct.
design, human computer interaction,
Correct.
interaction design. So
Correct.
they're all, I mean, they just go by different names, but essentially
Okay.
is the same world.
Okay. 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 Yeah. So, what are the kind of opportunities for a person who gets into the UX design market, in the sense for employment, or are there any opportunity for entrepreneurship also?
Um, so entrepreneur, like I said, I think, see, for any entrepreneurial product that we have today has different aspects of it. One, of course, being, what's your business model? How is it going to make money?
Correct.
Uh, the other aspect, of course, is who's going to build this? I have a great idea. I'll figure out how we're going to make money,
Mm-hmm.
but I need someone who can actually develop this and maintain this and run with it. So you
Mm-hmm.
need a development partner. The third aspect of it, which, I consider these are sort of the three legs of any product
Mm-hmm.
uh, work, is you have the business side, you have the development. The third one is actually your design, which
Mm-hmm.
is what do users want, and how do we make them buy this, or how do we make sure that they get value out of this.
Okay.
So if you are going to be an entrepreneur, you need a
Mm-hmm.
combination of, at least two of this, or like a
Mm-hmm.
overall sense of all three put together.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you're someone who understands that, how am I going to make money out of this? What's my, you know, business model? I know how I can run my development, how I'm going to build this, how I'm going to build this, and I understand how I'm going to make this lovable by users,
Correct.
what will make them buy it. So if you have a good sense of these three, you could be an entrepreneur in this world.
Mm-hmm.
If not, then you always have co-founders and partners who partner up, and each one has their own skill. So if you're a
Specialized.
design person, find someone who has more business knowledge, or who knows how to build things, who knows how to code. You can always partner up and
Mm-hmm.
go the entrepreneur route. Um, so that's one way of that. It's the same, pretty much the same for anything in the digital
Correct.
entrepreneurial world today, where you have startups and two three people get together and they start something on their own. So
What are the kind of job market this skill has? I mean, the UX design industry has.
like I said, every IT company
Mm-hmm.
has a UX or a designer.
Mm-hmm.
Every and it's a huge market. We may not
Mm-hmm.
realize that,
Mm-hmm.
because there might be at least um, 500,000, 1,000 plus job
Mm-hmm.
postings as well, like, per week or so, which
So
is,
big? Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
huge variety,
Oh.
and it's growing. It's also growing, so they'll
Mm.
never stop.
Mm. Mm.
I
Mm.
mean, last
Mm.
year it would have been about 1,000 plus. This year it's definitely more. Um, and every startup will look for designers. So
Why?
let's
Why?
say Ola has so many designers. Um, you have, talk about the multinational companies from like Microsoft, Google. We don't know that, but every team has a dedicated UX team
Mm-hmm.
that works on building these products. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're
Mm-hmm.
a UX designer, and you know that you want to work on these digital products, which is
Mm-hmm.
in the IT sector, and each of these company does makes different things. Let's say Honeywell,
Mm-hmm.
the aviation, they do aviation, they do like building stuff, and all of them have a huge team of designers. So
Mm-hmm.
based on your, what vertical or what what field they are in and what kind of company that is, like whether it's a local company or it has global offices also. Um, that's your option. That's where you could go, and that opportunity is really really huge, and it's also growing and growing in terms of skills. So you're never bored, and you can never say that I know enough.
Yeah, correct.
Like I was saying, there's this whole new world of artificial intelligence and VR and AR and augmented reality, and that's something that every designers are now part of in some way. Uh, so you never get bored. There's so much to discover and learn. But at the end of the day, what you're doing is that you're solving problems for your end user, and creating that holistic experience for them in some way. So the opportunity is wherever there is technology, you will be humanizing that technology, and that's where UX design would come into the picture.
Correct, correct,
So
correct.
there was a startup. It was just a technology startup, but now, I mean, they would start and they would expand. As they keep expanding, you'll realize that you'll need designers. That's where they'll open up that that portal and start out looking for designers. So as companies keep growing, they will also keep creating more opportunities for designers to be hired. So yeah, in the IT sector, it's huge. I mean, I can speak only for that because I've always been part of these companies.
Correct, correct, correct. So this your company Altesian is a UX design company, or it's a IT
So
company and you're part of it. I mean, just extending it.
so yeah, so it's called Atlassian. It's a Australian software company, and they make products. The one of the flagship products is called Jira. It's a product that is widely used. I'm sure a lot of software engineers and product managers and all would use this on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
So we have some products which are used for development. Uh, all companies and all software companies use that product. So I'm a designer who works on that product.
Okay.
So the team would consist of, like I said, we'll have a lot of engineers, lesser than engineers, designers, and have a lot of other management, program managers, product managers who will look at the business aspect of how to
Correct,
derive business value out of this.
correct, correct.
So that's sort of like you know it's almost like a triad model where you have design, you have development, and engineering, and then you have the business. So
Okay,
that's like a
okay,
holistic
okay, okay,
view of
okay,
building the new product.
okay, okay. If a student wants to get into this line, what do you suggest to him? Maybe a person who's in the 10th standard or in the plus two or PUC, whatever you call. So, what do you suggest to him to get into this field and how he can get into this field?
See, the thing with UX design is that there is no such path that's worked, or there's no such definitive thing that do this and then you will get it, or
Okay, okay,
do
okay.
that, do this over that. So there are, like, for example, there are people who have done engineering and 4 years, and they tried, and then you have a lot of engineers, who, I mean, we keep hearing that, right? They was an engineer and then they quit their job and they did something else.
Correct.
But that comes in handy if you are an engineer, you want to get into design. So you come with an engineering background, that's fine. You necessarily didn't need all of that. But then you upskill yourself to learning these other, UX and the end user related empathy thing, skills that I was talking about.
Correct.
Once you get there, all of that knowledge comes in handy. So it doesn't mean that your engineering knowledge is gone to waste, because hey, you can also understand coding, which is great.
Correct.
Similarly, a lot of people who come from, like, for me, like, I come from psychology background,
Correct.
and it's, I mean, I didn't plan for it because I thought I would want to become, do something in psychology, but also I was creatively inclined, so that's how I discovered communication design and UX design and all of that. But I then realized that psychology comes in handy because now you're so much more equipped to understand people better,
Correct.
know what they're saying, and reading between the lines, and really
Correct.
empathizing with user because you have that background. So
Correct.
that's my plus point.
Especially,
Uh,
yeah.
a lot of people who would also come from, like, arts background, uh, where they are more aesthetically and visually, people who come from any sort of paintings or arts and
Creativity, yeah,
crafts as
creative
a
kind of,
background.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, more like, aesthetic, visual, and creative.
Mm-hmm.
They also become designers, but they,
Okay.
go more towards UI design and, visual design, where, if I say there is all this information,
Mm-hmm.
put this, make some screens or make some pages. They'll be
Mm-hmm.
able to help you. Okay, the screen should be white or blue
Mm-hmm.
or whatever
Correct,
else, and,
correct,
we'll place
correct.
this information on the top right. We'll place
Mm.
this information here. These are the icons or the graphics or the illustrations that we'll use, because that's their forte, and,
Correct.
that's how they will bring their visual and artistic skill
Mm-hmm.
into the world of UX design. Now, there are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people who, so that's the non-design background people that they come with. Today, we have a lot of courses that are specifically tailored according to what actually the UX design world is. So you have a combination of everything. You learn a little bit of creative sketching, you learn a little bit of strategy, you learn a little bit of psychology and, cognitive models and how humans think, and a little bit of psychology and, cognitive principles and all of that. And you learn a little bit about what kind of tools and, some languages of coding as well. So you learn a
Okay.
little bit of everything, and then
Okay.
you can say, I'm more inclined towards doing this or more inclined towards doing that. And then there are a lot of courses, which also have more business thinking wise of,
Mm-hmm.
how do we derive data out of something, and say this is
Mm-hmm.
what the product will build versus that. So you have a little bit of, sort of MBA embedded
Mm.
into that course. So
Correct,
today
correct.
we have these tailored courses that teach you a little bit of everything, and then you
Mm-hmm.
can pick.
Mm-hmm.
तुम कहीं जाओ कहाँ कहीं, pick
Apply those
that
at.
and take
Right.
it forward and apply it, and then see wherever it takes you. Do you want to join IT, or do you want to join, you're more creative, so you want to join like an ad agency or anything like that. So it's vast.
Correct.
But I think a lot of people today are taking up that bachelor's degree where you're or your 2 year master's program, but it's good enough time. It's not very long, but also I know a lot of people don't want to take that risk of not doing engineering or something, and not doing something stable thing. But it's not so now. You get a bachelor's degree and a master's degree today,
Correct, correct,
which teaches you all these things, and definitely the opportunity is so big that you would never not have a job.
correct,
It's more easier, I would say confidently, it's more easier to get a job as a designer than to get a job as an engineer, because you just have so many of them.
correct, correct. The
Uh,
demand is huge. Demand is huge.
yeah, demand is
Yeah.
huge. The supply is very less because people don't know about it much, or people think
Correct.
it's not safe, or it's not as lucrative or as safe as an engineering or a medical background.
Yeah. Uh, but I mean, lucrative, as you said, I think it should be equally paying as a software engineer also, right? Because you do have a lot of things to create. You design something which the engineer works on, right? Or whatever he works on, you have to design something on that for the user
Yeah,
interface. Yeah.
yeah.
What is the
It
kind
is.
of,
It is definitely
yeah,
lucrative.
sorry, carry on, carry
It's definitely lucrative. It's just
on.
that people don't know that yet, and it's
Exactly.
not being spoken about
Exactly.
much as in,
Right.
specifically for UX design.
Correct.
And
Correct.
even though I say it's large, but it's also a very small community compared to engineers, where the first thing almost everyone says is that you want to do engineering, and then
Right.
it sort of keeps your options open, and then you can either quit or do something else and all that.
Correct.
But even if you look at it from that perspective of what kind of money you make or how stable the job is going to be, I think it's better, if not less. Like, they paid the same, or if not less, definitely more. So I can assure that it should be more uh, widely changing, and more people should start looking into this and taking this up, because they're genuinely interested in this field, and it's also a very stable industry, so you don't have to think twice if that's
Yeah.
really the calling for people.
Yes, yes. As far as the IT industry grows, this also grows, multiple times maybe, because the
Yep.
opportunities are
Yep.
more, and because each product has its own different versions, and each version has to be designed, though the product remains the same. As you said, that there is a graduation and a post-graduation. So, out of your memory, which universities offer these kind of courses? Do you take them after the plus two, or yeah?
So yes, I think most of them are after the plus two. So you have the IITs offer you the
Correct.
design courses. So I know the most famous ones are IIT Guwahati, which has something called Design Department of Design. It's within the IIT campus itself. It's just another course they offer. So that's also as I mean, it's the same as the engineering uh, duration. They have like a shared 1 year course, and then they branch off and they go into respective.
Okay.
The
Okay.
other one I know about is called IDC, which is in Bombay, the
Mm-hmm.
IIT Mumbai,
Mm-hmm.
which also offers a design course, which is also a 4 year course for a graduation, and about 2 year, 2.5 years course for a post graduation. Same goes with all IITs. And then I know there's Maharashtra Institute of Technology, MIT, which is quite a popular branch of engineering colleges in Maharashtra. And they also have a dedicated college for design, which is
Okay.
called MIT Institute of Design in Pune. There is Srishti School of Arts in Bangalore. There's NIT, National Institute of Design in Ahmedabad in Gujarat. So I think that's the oldest one. Um, and then, yeah, I think people who, the first batch from those batches would be now like leading design in India. So that would have been like about 60, 70 years ago. So it's that
Oh,
old
okay.
in India. And yeah, one of the first ones. So these are the popular colleges in India, and I know a lot of other colleges and engineering colleges also offer a design course,
Okay.
which is as long as engineering. They have a shared 1 year engineering, like a foundation course, and then they do their specialized design things.
Okay. 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 Uh, I think then this particular skill definitely has a demand abroad too, right? I mean, do you have any idea of the demand the companies outside have for our UX designers?
So, like I said, like where I work at last year is an Australian company, it's headquartered in Sydney. But you take all these big companies like Microsoft and Google, which has so many offices across the world. They all have UX designers. And of course, if you go to the Bay Area, it's you'll just walk into more designers than you'll walk into anyone else. Uh, or just as many people who are developing and coding
Correct.
these products also have designers. So every product company, especially because Silicon Valley, you will see a lot of designers even there.
Okay.
And of course, in other parts of the world, you will see them sparsely here and there, a few designers, smaller team. Bigger companies can afford more and can, spend more in design, which is why they invest more. Uh, yeah, so it depends whether it's a global company or it's a local company from a certain country, but they will all have some sort of a budget for uh, UX design.
Okay. Okay. As you said, it is there's a lot of demand and the supply is less. So, what's your thoughts on developing or increasing the supply side of it? Supply side, kisham cherd korudatta tantu. Uh, how do you motivate people to get into this stream?
That's what I'm trying. I'm trying to do that. So more people can know what this is about,
Correct.
and not be fearful of don't know what this is, whether this industry will remain tomorrow or not. I know a lot of people who are very passionate about being creative, passionate about solving problems, and we always try to put them into some sort of a job industry. Like, if you like to solve problems or if you like to do something, then you must become like a scientist, or you must become an engineer because you like to do that. Not necessarily. I think if you really go by what's your real, what are you really passionate about, I think that will take you to where you're supposed to go. So if I was a person who was liked organizing things or like putting in information and making it simple, I used that skill to discover that there was a world of UX design that was waiting for me. So if we try to jump to that too soon, that okay, let's make this child an engineer, or let's make this child a scientist or something, you've already created that bracket, and then you're not thinking outside that box. So if you can use the same skills to become a UX designer also, and which is as great as money making industry as any other field. So I think if you just start thinking more about it in that way, of course, the industry is also trying to reach out to schools and colleges where we can tell more people about
Right.
such an industry existing
Correct.
and what we do. Um, yeah, and educating them about its existence. Then I think, yeah, I think we'll see a better supply 5 years, 10 years from now. Of course, it's growing; it's gradually growing. We see a lot of people who move into this field now, or at
Okay.
least they shift after a certain time. They do engineering, they do something else, and then they suddenly realize this is a better, a much easier, a more money-making industry, so they make that jump.
Well.
Uh,
Well.
yeah, I think it's happening very organically. It's not very thought through, and um, yeah, not as much as the other industries. It's because yeah, relatively it's new. No,
Right.
it's only been
Correct. What, for
hardly
20,
30,
15, 20
40
years?
years,
Yeah, 30,
30
40 years.
years max. And since the time it's gained a real momentum, maybe 15, 20 years. So that's still very less compared to the other industries.
Correct, correct. And I think there's a lot of new things coming in every moment, if not every day. It's every moment something new is coming, and there's a lot of continual learning also happening in your industry, right?
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
changing by the year,
correct.
literally. That's realistically how frequently things are changing. It's by the year.
Yeah, yeah,
So you have
yeah.
new technologies coming in, new processes, new ways of doing it, new products being built, new ways of doing things. Um, so it's changing, and because as a designer, you can be part of any domain. Like you can be in healthcare, you can be in finance and banking, and aviation and anything. There's a whole world that domain itself opens up for you. So if I want to design something for the airline industry, I first have to know what they do, what their parts are, how each of these parts are built. You actually get to like simulate these experiences and understand how it works, and that's not easy to do. So once you do
Right.
that, then you say how you can improve that. But
Correct,
first you have to know a little bit about that domain. So it's very
correct,
interesting. You learn a lot along the way. You have
correct,
ample time to learn also about how
correct,
that world works.
correct, correct, correct.
Yeah.
Understand how it works, then maybe give, I mean, then you design something which can work better, keeping in mind the
Yeah. So it's
human.
always changing. So if I mean today I'm in a job that makes it softwares for people to develop anything. But I used to be working in banks and financial sectors. I worked in Sri Lanka for 3 years on their first digital banking product,
Okay, okay.
something like the ATM of sorts, which they had there. And that also comes because even before in my past, when I've worked in a lot of all, I've had a lot of financial banking clients from
Okay.
all the big banks that we have in India and overseas. So that comes in handy, but you have to know it. I mean, I'm no financial person, but you have to know it from a point that what people like, how they would like to use it,
Correct.
what are these different products that people sell. There's so much information about each, say, investment planning. So you have to understand that first,
Correct.
and
Correct.
then think about how you want to structure that, change that, make it more understandable, more intuitive for users, so that they
Correct.
can understand it.
Correct.
At the end of the day, we want them to click on it and buy it, or
Right.
click on it and transfer some money into it.
Correct. Correct.
How can we do that is what we work towards. But to
Correct.
get there, you have to understand the whole world of finance and banking and all of that. Tomorrow,
True.
if you change your job and go into an aviation industry, you would
Correct.
want to know how things work inside a cockpit, and so that you're able to better design the cockpit
Exactly.
experience, and
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
they see their uh, monitoring and all of that, and how they would like to see it, what's the best way to structure that, how big it should be, what colors they should be. But before that, you have to understand that domain itself.
Correct.
So it's never boring. You can, if you keep changing the domain, you'll keep getting these different experiences of knowing about different domains.
Correct, correct, correct. Yeah. Specifically for the GSB community, what what kind of message you would like to give GSB youths, to getting into this? आमगेला आता येदोळता GSB कसं असेल basically banking असेल then आता नंतर software industry घेतात software engineers जातात असे. So how we can I mean attract the GSB youths into this one, and how we as a GSB Udyog, because we provide this platform for the employees to come together and pick up, hire the people. So that platform are how we can motivate the people or inspire them to get into this kind of industry.
That's my attempt to spread this message to more people in our community.
Why?
That I think that notion, like you said, that they're mostly into banking or
Why?
finance,
Why?
and something like that, because it's also a comfort world, and you know someone who is in that field. You hear more from them.
Why? Why? Why?
Tom Gurtachasa, to bank kantasa. So
Why?
he will tell you more things about the world of bank. So you know about it more.
Correct. You
Uh,
know about the
so
domain there.
the
Yeah.
other,
You
yeah, so
comfort
it's
zone.
safe.
Why?
Yeah, it's comfort zone and comfort world, and you will feel more comfortable that you can always reach out to someone.
Why?
कसं काय कोणाला निंबू येतं 3-4 बँकर्स तरी होत असतं सत्तरांत.
Why?
So it's more about that, but I think that's also changing, and it has changed so much. uh, it requires people's mindset to change, that don't always go by the safe route. If you like something, uh, you know go find out if there are what fields are there, how you can use your skills into other fields as well. What about the world of banking do you really like, or how do you think you can change that? So I think youth has that mindset anyways, that you want to do something different. uh, they don't want to go by just based on what their grandparents or parents or everyone did. So you're exploring new things.
Why? Why?
uh, so I think the more we can reach out and say that, hey, we're there to support and guide each other, and this is also a world called design and called UX design. And if you need any help, or if you want to know anything more about it, or if you want to know how to go about it, there are people also within the community, I'm sure, who know about UX design, who are designers, who are associated with
Why?
UX and UI and
Why?
design in a lot of places. If we just make ourselves more available,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of where we are in the world, I think it'll help a lot of other people and youths to,
Why? Why?
also say, okay, there are a lot of other, a lot of people in GSBs also who don't do finance, and that's a notion that sort of is dying now.
Correct, correct,
I
correct,
think we
correct,
are getting more exploring
correct,
into other
correct,
fields as
correct,
well.
correct. For the guests, mega like standard question as normally, because why our GSP community is not getting into armed forces, military. Your dad being armed forces asil nimiti. You must have tamgal GSP community to ulaitana kasalai you must have discussed something or you must have heard something. Why people are not amgal community ta vachana military ka or air force ka or naval wing ka. I mean, what is your thought on that?
Again, I think it's the same reason if I really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to Najditle.
Mm-hmm.
Going to Gurta Chaslari, it's safer.
Mm-hmm.
So if we see, like you will see a lot of, I mean, most of them are from north of India. I think a
Why?
lot of
Why?
people
Why?
who go and
Why?
join the armed forces. It's because their neighborhood is full of these people. So
Mm-hmm.
you feel that's the most natural thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody around me goes there, so I'm gonna chadam thai vajka.
Why?
But that same doesn't apply here, where it's not something that you hear often or
Correct.
something. So that's
Correct.
one factor. You don't
Mm-hmm.
see a lot of people in your community.
Mm-hmm.
There is there's a big influence that your community plays in
Correct.
what the future of your child, or what your future should be, based on
Correct.
what
Correct.
everybody else in the family or community is doing.
Mm-hmm.
You feel that's the trend,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't see joining armed forces the trend for sure,
Why?
in the south. um, and it's also, of course, it's looked at as a more dangerous field and all of that, but
Why? Why?
again, it comes from misconceptions and
Very
not
true.
knowing enough, which
True.
I feel, yeah, we don't do a good job of really spreading the word and uh, telling people about it, more about it. So we don't know what the life is like for an armed forces person.
It's like
We don't know what challenges they deal with. What are the good things about it? We always hear
correct.
the bad side of it. Yeah,
Exactly.
what's the benefit
More
of living a life
exaggerated.
like that? Exactly, right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so we form these notions from news. We
correct,
don't form these notions from neighbors telling you or a
correct,
family
correct.
member telling you, who will tell you the real truth.
Yeah,
But how awesome the life is.
yeah,
But
yeah,
we form these notions based on what we see in the news. कि
correct,
dangerous assessments, border
correct.
unbuttoned rapta,
Why?
family interrupt China. So
Jain.
so then you're like nak te pura nak. So it comes from that.
Correct. Yeah, तू ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ slides share केलेले the slides just दाखयतात so you can talk about. You can speak on the slides. Yeah.
There's a slide before this.
Ha. Rishikesh, haj pulle.
No, it's not going in the order.
Pullire.
No, this is the last slide. Uh, one before this.
Ha.
Yes, okay. But we've seen all the slides, so no surprise element there.
Yeah.
Before we wrap this up, I just want to leave it on a roll. We spoke a lot about what the design is and what is design, how do you get into it, opportunities. I just have some slides on, and that's what I want to leave with. Is what's the impact that it creates? Like, why design? What happens if I don't invest in UX design? What I can do without it. So just have some stats on that, and that's what it says. So we have a lot of companies across the world who are design driven, which means they've invested in design, they've built a team, they've built practices and processes around design. And the companies who've done that have 50% more loyal customers, 41% more higher market share, and 46% competitive advantage overall. This
Okay.
is as of last year, and this is a report that was done by Forrester. So they do these kind of research just to give you like importance of design and investing
Correct.
in design.
Correct. Correct.
Move to the next slide.
Rishikesh.
And in terms of ROI, your return on investment, for every $1 that is invested in UX, the results are $100.
Wow.
It's surprising we don't know this, but that's the ROI, which is at
That's
9,900%.
huge. Yeah.
Yes.
Next.
So I just have a few other stats, telling you the impact when it comes to any digital product only. So you have 39% of users who will stop engaging with content when the images are not loading, or it takes too long,
Correct.
or what
Correct.
the homepage looks like.
Correct.
88% users are less likely to return to a website if they have a bad user experience, which means it's not loading, or it's slow, or you don't like it, or the button is not working and you don't know how to submit something,
Correct.
and the screen is stuck. You have 88% users who are less likely to come back to that website.
True.
Mobile users who are 5 times more likely to abandon a task if the website is not optimized for mobile. So you have
Correct.
the desktop, and sometimes the desktop opens on a mobile also.
Correct.
And if that's not optimized for your mobile device, which is what most customers are always using everything on
Correct.
mobile and not on
Correct.
laptops,
Correct.
they're 5 times more likely to never do that at all and come back to it just because they don't have a mobile friendly website. If a website takes more than 3 seconds to load, 40% people would leave the website and never return. And the last
Yeah.
one is an interesting one that, a lot of people who would say, I don't have anything wrong with my product, or what's wrong? Why do I have to invest it, or why do I have to design it? I've never got any complaints, or no one
Correct.
has said anything negative about it. But this is the stat that we have on it, that 1 out of 26 customers complain when they are unsatisfied, which means the rest of the
25.
25%, that's
Yeah.
about 91%, just leave without saying anything.
Correct.
So that's what you're missing out on. So if you really
Yeah.
had invested in design,
Correct.
you wouldn't have that customers or that customer base leaving without a reason. They're not going to complain.
Correct.
They'll just disappear.
Just be silent and
Um,
just walk off. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Thank.
they won't
Next.
complain. So you'll
Yeah.
never know.
Correct.
Yeah, and these are some others by some companies. So I have two of them. One from Capgemini, which says that 8 in 10 customers are willing to pay more for a better customer experience. So I think if we can all, take a moment and think about a time when, something was working and something just looked or felt better, so you picked that, and
Correct.
then you're like, oh, it's not free, you have to pay for it. You're willing to do that because it makes your life easier, or
Correct.
you're like,
Correct.
okay,
Correct.
I
Correct.
don't have to think about it. I don't mind paying ₹5 extra for it.
Correct. 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 Correct.
That's an interesting stat from Capgemini.
Correct. Correct. Next.
This is reported by Forbes. Jeff Bezos, who is the founder of Amazon, invested 800 times more in customer experiences in the first year of Amazon than he did in advertising.
Okay.
That's how big the product has
Design.
become
Yeah.
now because of
Correct.
that investment. We have a
Correct.
huge number of designers who work in Amazon for this.
Correct. Correct. Next. Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure if it's too clear. So I wanted to
Right.
leave on this note that we talked about what are the different opportunities and what kind of skills are needed for UX design. This
Okay.
actually is a visual representation of everything that is. So you will see interaction design, you'll see motion design, communication design, you will see computer science, architecture, and you will see how they're related in parts in some way. You have ergonomics and human factors, and they all have intersections which form another field
Yeah.
by itself.
Yeah.
You
Correct.
have UI design, you have architecture, you have industrial design, machine learning, mechanical engineering, computer science, motion design,
True.
content design, user interface, all of these. So I think it's a holistic view of all the fields and all the skills that are needed. And you will see the big brown circle is the user experience design. So these are all the different skills, and any designer will have some of these put together.
Okay.
Not all, of course. Some of these
Correct.
put together, but
Correct.
generally know mostly about most of them.
Correct.
So if any of these is something that anyone is passionate about or want to pursue, this is the wide world of options that we have. So
Yeah.
not necessarily like if you do computer science, I was saying not necessarily you want to be someone who's going to be coding, but you can evolve and get the other on the outer circles of that, the skills that I
Correct.
mentioned in that, and improve it, upskill yourself and get inside that circle of user experience design on the
Correct.
other side of it. So
Okay.
similarly, if you belong to anything, if you have this is how you can expand the skills and uh, come inside or outside the circles of wherever you want to be. So that's what I wanted to do here.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. ओके थैंक यू निवेदिता मस्त तुम्हें जी UX डिज़ाइन म्हणून एक नवे एक सब्जेक्ट आमगेले प्रोग्राम अंत एक डिटेल्स दिला तुम्ही आमगेलो टंग येऊन आयल्याक तुमकां मस्त धन्यवाद सो थैंक यू वेरी
Thank you
मच
so much.
फॉर स्पेंडिंग योर टाइम एंड होप we will call you again if not for the interview maybe interact with a group of people who कोणाक तांकां तूं ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ मोटिवेट कोरनो ह्या लायनाके तशें करच्याक सो हांव तुमकां खंडित कॉन्टॅक्ट करता धन्यवाद
Thank you.
and
Thank you
thank you
for
very
giving
much.
me this opportunity. Thank
Yeah.
you.